Welcome back, everybody, to a new season of Jan's Opening Clinic. I'm your host, Jan Gustafsson, and this is the show where I do my very best to answer opening questions posed to me by Chess24 premium users. We have published a news article, and I've received some 50 questions that I will be answering over the next couple of weeks, I guess. Normally, I try to do like 1-hour shows where I answer roughly 10 of them. And that is what I'm intending to do today. Sorry that there's been a bit of a hiatus for the opening clinics. I've been busy, so it's good to be back and get some fresh new questions, because this show also helps me to sort of stay up to date with what's out there, what the cool new openings are, and where things have changed. So let's jump right into the action and start with the first question posed by Mr. Fyodorovich. He's saying, "Hi Jan, in the mainline King's Indian defense, what is the current status of the Bayonet attack with knight b4? Is there a reason the King's Indian defense isn't seen very much at the elite level these days? Thanks." I'm not sure. First thing that comes to mind is after d4, knight f6, c4, g6. Because the Grünfeld is such a powerhouse, a lot of people play the moves g3 or f3 here, because they don't know what to do after knight to c3, d5. And if you commit to g3 or f3, that means that we will no longer see a bayonet attack. So that could be one reason why it's not seen so often. As for the King's Indian, it's not an opening beloved by computers. Computers like the space that white is given in the center more than the history of the game and all the pioneering work that Fischer and Kasparov did for the opening. So maybe it's the spirit of the times that fewer and fewer people dare to enter these dangerous King's Indian waters. Even though I don't have statistics, I'm not sure how true it is. I could imagine that, yeah. Since the Grünfeld is in such good shape. First of all, black people don't feel the need, black players I should say, the need to go for bishop g7 after knight c3. And third, if we get King's Indian battles, it's more with the pawn on f3 or g3 already. Anyway, let's get to the line in question there. What's it called? I think it's the bayonet attack you call it, right? d5, knight to e7, and pawn to b4. I played this a bit and I looked at it when Kramnik used it to get very good positions against Kasparov and everybody else at some point, I think in the mid to late 90s. After that there was this book, Opening for White According to Kramnik, where Khalifman, I think, wrote some extensive chapters on this. So I know a bit. I would not consider myself a giant expert. As for the status, I don't think it's been refuted. I also don't think it's considered winning. In my time there were always two main lines. One is knight to h5 and the other is pawn to a5. After b4 the slower systems with knight d7 or knight e8, even though Nakamura sometimes dabbles with them, they are not supposed to be all that great. So after knight h5, white always has the choice between g3 and rook e1, although Gelfand I think has been experimenting a bit with c5 here as well. After c5, knight f4, black was supposed to be okay. As for the state, the last I've seen is that there used to be this line. This used to be a big line, but Bacro has pretty successfully been defending this position for black, more or less making it look like a draw. So I guess the ball is in white's park here. Is this position? Yeah, I think so. And I'm not quite sure where white players have been looking for alternatives. Maybe this c5 or this g3, f5, knight g5. But it does seem like these lines are playable. However, they're not much fun for black, and the most he can hope for is a draw. So I've seen a lot of black players have started to play more a5, either here or after knight h5, rook e1, which leads to a more double-edged game and more to play for. The traditional main line is bishop a3 here, One move that has become trendy is this weird looking waiting move, rook to e8, which looks extremely strange because we're taught the rook should be on f8 to support f5. But turns out that vacating this diagonal, sometimes preparing bishop f8, also has a lot of value. And as far as I can tell, white has been struggling a bit here. The direct c5 is not great because of the takes. c6. Black is in time thanks to some tricks like d6, queen to a5. Once again, we see the value of rook on e8, d takes e7, not with the tempo. And if white goes ba5 here, then black has time to play c5, slowing the game down, never allowing this pawn to get here, with a structure that is certainly playable for both sides, but I have never been too happy from the white side. So that's one sort of trend I noticed. Of course, there's plenty other moves here. b6 remains the main line, or a takes b, followed by b6, and then rook e8 is a line. But this immediate rook e8 was a move I wasn't very familiar with. That seems to be catching on. That's very interesting. Computers like white just going b takes a5 here, and after rook a5 or c5, whatever. Playing such a structure, a4, bishop d2. Maybe we'll see more of that in the future, but it also does not seem to be exactly winning. So I don't know, it feels like most white players, they feel maybe like b4 is a little worn out, but I don't think that's a refutation, and it's still as good a move as any to fight for an advantage. As for why black doesn't play more King's Indians, I guess, it's the space and the correspondence. King's Indian doesn't do well in correspondence or engine games, because once you take the human factor and the trickery out of it, the results get a little worse, and of course we're more and more influenced by all these outside sources. But you never know, maybe it's gonna make a big comeback. I've never been a King's Indian fan, but I do have a bad score against, so can't really talk too much trash. Let's see if the next question gives me a chance to talk more trash. Neiman is saying, hi, what is the state of the theory in the exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit in the main line after d4, d5, c4, e6, knight to c3, knight to f6, cd, ed, bishop g5? Wow, we're getting some broad questions today. I don't know, this is a huge field. This is the classical starting position of whatever we want to call it, the Carlsen structure, which most top players avoid with black. The most typical top player repertoires are d4, knight f6, c4, e6, and after knight c3 they go bishop to b4, and only after knight to f3 they play d5, when this pure version is no longer as good, with the knight already committed to f3 and no direct pressure on the black center. While if top players go knight c3, d5, the likes of Kramnik, often after cd5, they go knight takes d5. So I think the word on the street is still that cd, ed is not a weapon that you want to employ every game, at least with black as your main repertoire. Because of course the structure is quite dangerous. Without the knight being committed to f3, white has this plan we've all heard of bishop g5, e3, bishop d3, knight g2, f3, and e4 in the distant future. First brought to the limelight, I believe, by Monsieur Botvinnik, and this has been a bit of a problem for black ever since. So I don't think that much has changed in like the old main lines, like bishop e7, e3, c6, bishop d3, short castles. Here both the knight to e2 and this other plan with queen c2, knight b7, knight to f3, knight e2 still very valid, are still considered to be somewhat more pleasant for white, as far as I know. White chooses between this plan, which typically is associated with short castles and f3, or this plan with knight f3, rook e8, where here once again you can choose between h3 followed by bishop f4, h3 with short castles, h3 with long castles. White has lots of plans, but overall the verdict has not changed, that this is not too exciting for black, I would say. So what black players have been trying to do is solve the problem of this bishop immediately by going c6, defending the d5 pawn, and meeting e3 with bishop f5. This is a line I wanted to get to work for black for a while, because it would be a nice shortcut, avoiding the Nimzo. But then Magnus Carlsen won a very brutal game against Vladimir Kramnik in this critical line with queen to f3. And the line sort of went out of fashion. This new idea by Magnus was after bishop e7 to play knight to e2, tending knight to g3, and then putting a knight on f5. Which, yeah, is a dangerous plan. The theoretical debates Kramnik's had, some more games since then, have Kramnik with the white pieces now. He switched to team white here. And the theoretical debates have centered around f5 in this position, hitting this knight, g3, bishop takes h4, g takes h, and knight to f6. Which, yeah, is not something I would love to play with black, but does seem to give black decent drawing chances. Piano made a draw here against Kramnik. Kramnik later won a game against, I think, Alexandrov. So there's still some discussions ongoing. I think MVL Vityugov maybe was also a draw. So black is still trying to defend this position, but it doesn't look like it's great fun. Another line that I've seen a bit that used to not really be a thing is this bishop not going to e7 but to d6 directly. Conventional wisdom is you're pinned, not a good idea, but things have changed a bit, and after bishop d3 short castles, it turns out there's some advantages to having the bishop on d6. Controls the e5 square, so no knight can get there so easily. And one idea that black has here is sometimes to play bishop e6 and then knight b7, coordinating his pieces. This is not a line that, yeah, is all the rage necessarily, but Kramnik used it, and it does not necessarily look to be bad. I would expect a bit more of it in the future. It's a setup, yeah, that has not been used much in the past. That is certainly interesting. Anyway, this is such a broad field. There's 18,000 different lines that I could talk about. My feel is that it's still not a line that's very popular for black to play at the highest level. As for the theoretical debates that are currently happening in this line with c6, e3, bishop f5, and black is experimenting with some new schemes, but the verdict hasn't really changed. White is slightly better, and it's not a line most players like to play. Hope that answered your question, Mr. Neiman. The Big Chess Theory is asking, Hi Jan, in the Schlechterslav after d4, d5, c4, c6, knight c3, knight f6, or knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, g6, is there a way for black to equalize after c takes d5? I don't think so. I think that's a bad line for black. I would not advise anybody to play it. It's a bit different if white goes e3, then you can make a case for g6. I'm still not a big fan, but that's a full-fledged line. But here, knight c3, g6, cd is not the only move, but it's the most clean-cut. cd, cd, bishop f4. The problem is the bishop is just misplaced on g7 for the structure. It doesn't put any pressure on the white center. Getting e5 in will be very hard to do, and it's just a bad position for black. So let's have a look at how they normally play. Bishop f4, knight c6, let's say e3, bishop g7, h3, short castles. And yeah, it's tough for black to play, even if white is humble and plays a move like bishop to e2, just intending to go castles, rook c1, then make something happen on the queen side, queen b3, knight a4. It's very difficult for black. Bishop d3 is also a good move. There was some sharper line here. Knight to d7, intending e5, which at least makes some use of the bishop on g7. I think white was still better after some strange move like bishop to g5, but things got a little out of hand. But overall, no, it's not a good line for black at all. For comparison's sake, to explain how bad this is, let's have a look at a currently very topical line in the Grünfeld, where after, this is the Grünfeld, knight f3, bishop g7, white plays h4, hinting at h5, Black, now afraid of h5, goes c6, reinforcing the center. And now white goes c takes d5. This, for example, is the game Fyodorovich against Carlsen from Weikanse. C takes d5 and bishop f4. So white is willing to play the same position with the pawn on h4. But of course, if you get this position via the standard move order, no one would put the pawn on h4 here. White doesn't really want to play h5 in this position. He just wants to put pressure on the queen side. But he's thinking, even though my pawn is committed to h4, this is still a playable line, and Magnus barely made a draw in that game. So you can see if white is happy going here, how happy he must be and should be in the exchange Slav with the bishop on g7. It's just misplaced there. And yeah, this position after knight c3 is not the position to go g6. Play e6 or dc4 or a6, but not g6. What else do we have? We have Mr. Snooks. He's saying, Bonjour, Jan. Bonjour, Monsieur Snooks. In the French defense, after e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, e5. Ah, no, sorry. Knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7. Not my favorite move, but the French is also not my favorite move. Anyway, bishop e7, e5, knight f d7. How would you recommend that black replies to white's dangerous gambit option? e5, knight f d7, h4. So-called Ayechin Shatar, I believe. Can black get away with just castling as if nothing had happened? And then hit back with f6 and c5. What would you suggest is the best way for black to play? This is always somewhat difficult territory for me, because I never play the French. And if, for example, I was forced to play this position, I would certainly play d takes e4 here before I get cramped by this e4, e5. And this line, I think, is fine for black. For example, d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight bd7. It's a very, very solid line. But I do believe that most French diehards out there, they want the structure with the pawn on e5, so bishop g5, bishop e7 might be a more appealing move if you really want that structure, because you can undermine the pawn chain. But objectively, I would never go here. Or I would never go here, that's not objective. Subjectively, objectively, I would never go here. So h4, I believe, is a serious move. Bishop takes e7, obviously, a serious move at all as well. But h4 has stood the test of time. And it's not fully clear what black should do. I believe bishop g5, hg, queen g5 has been discarded, both because of queen to d3, which is considered to be very good, even though the computer likes knight to h3 even better. Queen e7, queen g4, stuff like this. And he's very happy for white. So don't take that pawn. What most players do, I think most French experts, is to play h6 here, saying, all right, we included h4, h6, congratulations, no big deal. And then get this type of position, which, frankly, I don't know. I'd still take white because of the space advantage and the good bishop and that stuff. But at least you get very Frenchy positions. I think the current main line is something like, I don't know about the move order, but you get some types of positions like this, where white is a bit more spaced and he wants to bring his knight over. And black does his French thing, like b5, knight e2, I don't know, b4, with a messy fight. Well, yeah, I prefer white, but I think that's currently the main line, and probably, as far as I know, and I don't know very far, the best black has against this Ayechin. We say Ayechin. Ayechin Shatar. So you mentioned the move short castles, which, yeah, is interesting. And in a way it's the most challenging. Just saying, okay, congratulations, you played h4. I want to strike in the center. It does look like white is ready for it if he plays his move queen to g4. It seems tough for black to equalize. If you go f5, then white can switch to boring and with a pawn committed to f5. This just looks like a very unpleasant endgame if black has to take here. So that's not a great line for black. And if you go for aggressive stuff here, f6, it seems like the tactics work for white. Once again, I have not really spent ages analyzing this, but both knight to f3 and bishop to d3 seem to be fine for white. Which is not too surprising because, yeah, with all these weaknesses around the king, you have to be very careful. f3 doesn't work. This is just checkmate. Typical little pattern. So I believe after bishop d3, if we go all the way back, the only move was rook f7, trying to protect some stuff here. When the fight continues, knight f3, I think knight to f8 was the move, and now ef, which doesn't look great for black. That probably wasn't knight f8, it was knight c6. Knight f8, ef just doesn't work. Yeah, the fight continues, but it does look like a line that is not to be recommended. Even here, ef, knight f6, queen somewhere, queen g3. I don't know, I'm biased because I'm not a big fan of the French defense, but I would argue I'm not a big fan because these positions aren't very good. So my answer is the best I can see, and what people seem to do is to play h6 here. Short castle. I have to admit I haven't spent much time analyzing, but I could not find egalite after queen g4, which threatens bishop h6, so you don't have time to go c5, let's say. And therefore, yeah, it seems to me like the Alekhine Shatar is a very serious line. I would not allow it with black. I would always play this. Or bishop e7, but probably not b7, if given the chance. Thanks for the question, Monsieur Snooks. Dr. Forkan is saying, hi Jan. In the Grünfeld exchange variation, CD knight d5, e4 knight c3, bc, bishop g7, knight f3, c5. How do you judge the pawn sacrifice arising from 8 rook b1? Thanks. Not 100% sure which pawn sacrifice he means, but I will make an educated guess. So this is one of the main lines of the Grünfeld, which nowadays you don't see that often from the white perspective. Sometimes you see it as sort of a memory test, but more often than not it's assumed that black will know what he's doing here. And it's also a bit of a problem from the white perspective that black has many different setups that are playable here. Knight c6 is a move, bishop g4 is a move, b6 is a move, and the main lines with c takes d and queen a5 check are possible, which I'm assuming is what Dr. Forkan meant by pawn sacrifice. I'm not sure, because there's many pawn sacrifices. For example, knight c6, d5, bishop c3 is a pawn sacrifice, which, as far as I know, is considered to be better for white. And there are other pawn sacrifices along the way as well. For example, b6, castles, bishop b7, d5, bishop takes c3. Also pawn sacrifice. I think this is considered to be okay for black. But my assumption is that he means the line after bishop e2, cd, cd, queen a5 check, bishop to d2, queen takes a2, short castles, which historically has been the most discussed here. And nowadays, once in a while you see it in high-level games, typically with Maxim Graf on the black side, or Peter Svidler. But it feels like it's not white's go-to line. Not that anybody really had a go-to line against the Grünfeld, because it's become more of a memory test. If black plays the main line here, bishop g4, I believe, has been established as the absolute main move, giving this pawn. And nowadays, yeah, they either take here, and then they see if black remembers his theory, something like this. it's a forced line that leads to a more or less equal position. How did it go? Take rook c8. Anyway, it's, yeah. I think this, yeah. It's a memory test, but not considered to be very dangerous for black. So, what you normally get nowadays, bishop e3, bishop g5 also used to be mainline. But I think bishop e3 is what they like to test now. Knight c6, d5, knight to a5, and now bishop to g5. This is the most popular line. Black chose between queen a3, which is risky, and b6, as MVL likes to play. In this position, all of this has been well established and analyzed quite a bit. Even this move, a3, takes. After some drama, things simplify. You take with the queen or the rook, I'm not sure. You get something like this, where white is an exchange up, but black has a lot of solidity. Bishop goes to d4, this pawn can run. In practice, I don't think white has ever really managed to make any progress here and get any winning chances. So, long story short, it seems like after rook to b1, black is okay in the very main line, accepting the pawn sacrifice. He also has alternatives. Therefore, rook b1, not as popular as it once was in the early 90s when Gelfand and Kasparovs of the world were torturing people with this line. Still, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a new discovery somewhere along the way, and the line came back into fashion. Currently, it looks like black's fine there. What else do we have? Whoa, Mr. Formless, Fyodorovich. He is saying, "Hi Jan, I recently started playing the Catalan with decent results." Brag. But there's one line that has been giving me headaches in the closed system. After d4, knight f6, c4, e6, g3, d5, knight f3, bishop b4, check, bishop d2, bishop e7, and so on. Then bishop a6. I'm not sure how to fight for an opening advantage. Rook gets knight e5, but after rook c8, cd, knight e5, knight c3, knight e5, bishop e5, f6. We put it on the board in a minute. Seems that objectively black has nothing, white is nothing better than to make a draw with queen a4 and so on. To avoid this knight takes d5 possibility, I've tried starting with cd5, but it seems like black should also be fine after cd, knight e5 and so on. With the weird position, the computer gives us equal, but with chances for both sides. Is this last line the best try for white, or shall I be looking to deviate sooner, for example, with rook d1, b6, b3? Thanks for all of your great content at Chess24. Thank you, Formless. Good old Catalan. Let's get to it. So, this is a system that I'm interested in, because I'm a bit tired from the black perspective of playing my bishop e7 short castles, which is fine, but the positions are a little dry once in a while. Well, bishop b4 check, also not exactly my cup of tea, but it does keep more pieces on the board. So I haven't really looked at it, but it's on my to look closer at list. And selfless as I am, I played this line today in Banter Blitz just to find out what the Banter Blitz opponents could have in store for Dr. Formless. So c6, queen c2, knight b7, rook d1. This is sort of the starting position. b6, bishop f4. By the way, Formless mentioned b3 here. And now after b3, I think both bishop a6 and a5 have a good reputation. So I don't think that's the way. Bishop f4 does look logical. And bishop to a6. This has been gaining popularity. Of course, there are other moves here. Knight h5, bishop b7, why not? But bishop a6. And now we are at this crossroads. The question is knight e5 immediately or cd5 first. My Banter Blitz game, not too relevant theoretically, but I should mention it. Went knight e5, rook c8, cd5, knight takes d5. And here, yeah, I agree with the line Formless gave after knight c3. How does it go? Takes, f6, bishop f4, takes, f5. I think our friend Laurent Fressinet played this with black. Works fine for black. My Bantam Blitz game with knight takes c6, and of course I failed to spot the correct move knight b4. But if you find that, black is fine, it seems. So yeah, this line seems fine for black. Therefore, the current try is cd first, cd knight e5. Of course, black once again has a choice, bishop b7, rook c8, whatnot. But the point of this move order was to take knight e5, d, knight g4. And here, if h3, as far as I know, knight takes f2 works with dangerous counterplay. So you go bishop f3. And the latest word in this line is none other than Anish Giri with the white pieces against Ding Liren, their game in Vike. So can't say I'm deep here or I've reinvented the wheel. But following Giri is normally not a bad idea. So Formless also gave this line ef knight f6, queen a4, bishop b7. Here Formless gave knight to a3, which looks a bit strange. Giri played knight d2, which looks more logical. Knight can still get to c4, also supports e4 from the d2 square, and some lines maybe can go to f3, e5. So I believe this is the position to analyze. I believe that Ding played the best move in the game, queen to e8, and they got some ending, takes, knight c4, bishop a6, knight e5, rook ac8. Here Giri played rook dc1, but the computer wants rook ac1, bishop b5, h4. Something along those lines, which, yeah, not necessarily winning, but somewhat more pleasant for white, I would say. You can try to grab some space on the king side. It's not exactly clear to me what black wants to do. These pawns could become a target, e4 could be looming. So, yeah, it does seem at least playable for white, and I believe this is the territory where future debates will be held. You can also try other moves here, like bishop d6. Takes, I don't know, knight c4 is a move. It's not obvious how black should proceed, at the very least. So yeah, Formless, it's a main line I think black will be holding at the end of the day. But the best I can currently see is this c takes d5, c takes d5, knight e5, and then play like Giri did against Ding. Hope that helps a bit. What else we have? We have our old friend, CaptainCocaCola. What's happening, Captain? Hello, Herr Gustafsson. Thank you for producing a new season. I know you have been kind of busy over the last month, but I missed your opening clinics. We're back now, CaptainCocaCola. Not very long ago, I started to experiment with the not so common line for black I read on Dangerous Weapons, the French by John Watson. The type of position we, at least I are trying to get, can be obtained by different move orders. For example, e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, e5, knight g8, or bishop b4, e5, bishop f8. So what you're saying is you're trying to get the French but 2 tempi down, because French itself is not challenging enough. And now you come to me asking for help. After you've played the French and then you've given up 2 tempi, you cannot be serious. Play a normal opening, Neil. How often do we need to have this discussion? My question finally is, how would you react as black after 5 knight ce2, c5, c3, knight c6, knight f3? I would fall into a deep depression, and I would question not so much my life choices, but certainly my opening choices on move number 1, number 3, both of them I would be questioning, and then especially number 4. You can keep this knight developed, or you can put it back home. What do you think is better? Sorry, Captain Coca-Cola, I'm not sure if you've seen this show before, but if you're asking for sympathy for sidelines that do not seem to make a whole lot of sense, you've come to the wrong place. And don't ask me to clean up your mess here. This is just a bad position for black. White will go a3, then knight g3 or knight f4, bishop to d3, short castle. And you're stuck with your spaceless structure and your bad pieces. So, can't help you. It looks pretty bad to me. Maybe it's more in the spirit of things, since you've played this line already. Maybe you want to go b6. Try to go bishop a6. Don't get me wrong, this is terrible as well. But maybe it's more in the spirit. But I can't endorse this either. No. Sorry, Neil. I'm not with you on this one. It's a bad, bad line. Don't play it. I guess that wasn't very helpful. But you dug your hole with this e6, knight f6, knight g8 stuff. Wasn't me. Mineriva is saying, good day, GM Gustafsson. Could you please give some advice for black? Yes, plans if possible. After the moves, e4, e5. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, knight f6, d3, short castles, d5. E takes d5, knight takes d5. So far, so mainline. b4, that's not supposed to be a good move. Bishop e7, b5, knight f5, knight takes e5, bishop f6, rook e1. Thank you. You want plans? I'm better at moves. Like, I probably wouldn't even play bishop f6. I would just take on c4. I think I covered this. I can't remember what I said in my video series. But black is better already, so it's not a line to be overly concerned about. If knight takes c4, then a6 smashes the white structure. He's not in time to play a4, so he has to go ba, and after rook a6. It's pretty overwhelming compensation for a pawn. And then the plan is to checkmate, go c5, b5, rook g6, bishop b7. While after d takes c4, knight b6, white should also not be too happy a camper, because he probably can't keep this pawn and the queen side intact. So that wasn't the question though. The question was knight takes e5, bishop f6, rook e1. I think rook e1 is also wrong. I think knight g4 is the best chance here. But it's not a great line for white anyway. So rook e1. My plan would be to e8, planning to take the knight on e5. So white has to do something about it. Bishop takes d5 would be bad. My plan would be to recapture and then probably take on e5 next move. If this knight would go away, I would plan to take this pawn. Or maybe bishop f5 is even more accurate. But anyway, it's bad positions for white. It seems like after rook to e8, in this position, the best move white can play is pawn to f4, weak his king side. And now my plan would be to take on c4. When knight takes c4 is bad because, well, it's bad for many reasons, I guess, but you can just take on c3. So the best white has is d takes c4. And my plan would once again be to retreat this knight to b6. And then probably eat e5 and c4 with a better position. White does not like that idea, goes knight d2. We have many different plans. But knight d2, bishop e5, fe, queen to d3. Does look like a good plan. Targeting these pawns. And white is not really in time to keep them all. c5, for example. We could start taking some of them. So overall, this is not a good line for white. b4 and especially b5 is not what white should do. Rook to e1 or pawn to a4 first are the critical lines. In this position, b4, b5, of course black has to know how to react because it is winning a pawn. but it's really not a good line. Knight takes e5 is a mistake, but this is already a good, nice position for white. For black, sorry. Thanks for the question, mineriva. What else do we have? More Giuoco Piano. Chessterfish is saying, hi Jan, in the Giuoco Piano, can you explain why a few top players have gone a6 followed by a5 in the lines where white goes a4? For example, d3, see, a6, a4, short castles, rook e1, h6, a3, h5. Put on the board in a second. Is this fancy play syndrome? No, I don't think so. I think it makes sense, even though it's weird, I'll admit. Why is the immediate a5 played less often than 6 a6? And which one should I learn as black? Yeah, tough questions. So let's put his line on the board, d6 castles. And yeah, it's true, it's a new trend. I think it was Grishuk who first put it on the map, that in some of these lines, after making a bunch of normal moves, now black moves his a pawn again by going a6 to a5, which of course looks very weird. And you ask yourself, why not go there immediately? But there is some method to the madness. For example, if black were to play a5 here, which is another fully fledged main line, it's completely fine. But if black plays a5, white almost never goes pawn to a4. One of the main lines here is rook to e1, short castles, knight b2, bishop to e6, the bishop goes to b5, and now if it's tackled by knight to a7, it still has this escape route via a4 and c2. While with the pawn on a4, that is obviously no longer possible. So in this other line where black quote-unquote lost the tempo and went a6 and then a5 here with the pawn here, if you go knight b2, bishop e6, bishop to b5, knight a7, there is no legal square to be occupied on a4. This is a theoretical position. Recently we had it in, I think, Giri versus Anand in Vaikanze, where Anand did pretty well with his knight g3, d5, made an effortless draw, was even better in the final position. So, no, it's not fancy play syndrome, it's a weird case of using the drawbacks of this move a2, a4. Also, if you play bishop e6 in such a position, which looks logical, then typically the problem is white takes and goes b4, expanding on the queen side. And this structure is tricky to play. But once your pawn is on a5, and now if white takes on e6, fe, if white doesn't grab the space, there's really not much to be too worried about. So in order to avoid simplifications, white should go bishop b5 here, and then this bishop is sort of trapped on b5. So as far as I can tell, it's a sound idea. Even if they start with knight b2, people have been playing a5 here. And as far as I can see, there's no refutation. Of course, there are nowadays so many move orders and trickeries in every single Italian line that it's hard for me to say which one should learn. Everything has pros and cons. After a6, you have to be aware of bishop b3 systems. You also have to be aware of this move bishop g5 here, which I think Duda played against Kramnik in Vaikanze and won a nice game. So all the moves have huge bodies of theory. I tried to make life simpler and go castles followed by d5 against everything, which of course brings its own set of problems. But yeah, if you ask me currently which line to learn, I honestly don't know. I've always sort of liked this ding approach, go a5, followed by short castles against everything. And then after in this position, I think he plays queen b8. And he's been defending that. So that's probably what I would go for. But this a6, followed by a5 later, seems to be in good shape. And I hope I made some sense explaining why it's not a loss of a tempo, but actually a very sneaky little idea. Point is, exploiting the drawbacks of white's pawn on a4. Another one being, goes d4 here later, then there's always a nice little outpost on this b4 square. So yeah, it's an interesting line. If you ask me which one to learn, I'd still go for the immediate a5 currently, but I could very much change my mind. Thanks for the question, Chesterfish. All right, let's do one more question. What do we have? Sorry, still live. A bit of coughing there. So let's see if I can make it through another question, because coughing not gone away. This will be tough. You know what? I think, since I can't guarantee that I'm still able to speak for another minute in a row, that I'll wrap up the season premiere of Jan's Opening Clinic 23 right here due to coughing. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. I hope we all learned something, and be back soon. Bye. Just kidding.